to another episode of Throwing It Back with Sean Farrell. I am Sean Farrell. God is great all the time. All the time, God is great. Jesus Christ died and he rose again. Let's go ahead and get into it. So, the NBA lockout, the first NBA lockout, and well, it wasn't the first NBA lockout. There was a brief lockout before the 1996 season started. Okay, and so this was the second lockout, and this was the big one, the big lockout, the big lockout, which many people consider the first lockout. But it was actually the second one. But it ruined a lot of careers. Okay, NBA lockout, you can ruin quite a few careers because games were canceled. Players were having extended vacations. Okay, and so the lockout ruined careers, particularly for big guys, because the extended off season, they gained weight. Patrick Ewing came into camp out of shape. Bryant Reeves, Shaq came into camp out of shape. Okay, so a lot of guys came into camp out of shape. But then there were a few guys who were consistently working out. Two guys I can think of were Allen Houston and Kobe Bryant. They came into camp in excellent shape, okay, for their respective teams. But I would say the player that was most impacted by the lockout was Shawn Kemp. Okay. I say it was Shawn Kemp who was most impacted by the NBA lockout. Okay. And so and Gary Payton talked about this. Okay. This is a story I saw on Basketball Network. Okay, Gary Payton talked about this. Gary Payton felt that he was at fault for how Shawn Kemp's career turned out. Okay, after he left Seattle. Okay, so Gary Payton said, "I watched Shawn go to the Cavs. And he got big. And I felt that that was my fault because I did step up in the way I should have stepped up with the ownership and let them do the right thing. It was a problem for me to see him there." Okay. Yeah. So he was going from, well, there were problems appearing long before that. It was revealed that his last season in Seattle, Shawn Kemp had a drinking problem that was revealed late in the season. Then, if you remember, they signed Jim McIlvaine. Okay, they signed Jim McIlvaine to a huge deal. Okay, and that didn't sit well with Shawn Kemp. Okay. You are signing a player who is way below Shawn Kemp's skill level to a huge contract, but you haven't re-upped on Shawn Kemp yet. Okay. So Shawn Kemp wanted out. Of course, there was a 3-team trade. Okay. In which involved the Bucks, the Sonics, and the Cavs, in which Vin Baker was sent to the Seattle Supersonics and Kemp was sent to Cleveland. Okay. So So he gets ready to Cleveland. So he goes to a young team in Cleveland that didn't have the Sonics' defensive identity and discipline, right? So now he goes from Seattle, where he was playing with veterans like GP, Terry Cummings, David Wingate, Sam Perkins, Hersey Hawkins. Okay, those veterans right there. You go from playing with a veteran team that had offensive firepower, defensive firepower, structure. Okay. You go from that to a young team in Cleveland that featured, by the way, Terrell Brandon was also. Well, by the way, Terrell Brandon was sent to the Bucks in that deal from Cleveland to Milwaukee. Terrell Brandon was also a part of that deal, right? And so you go from that veteran team that had structure to a young Cleveland team that features rookies, a lot of young players. You're talking about Brevin Knight, Derek Anderson, Cedric Henderson, Big Z, Zadrunas Ilgauskas, Wesley Person, Mitchell Butler. You go from Seattle to that young team in Cleveland, okay? And temporarily, it looked like the Sonics had the better end. It looked like that temporarily. I say that because Seattle went 61-21 in 1998. Okay. They went 61-21 in 1998. And then Seattle, Cleveland, I believe went 43-39 that year in 1998 and made the playoffs, okay? They were the 7th seed, okay? Or maybe they were the 6th seed or something like that. But anyway, yeah, they had a winning record. They made the playoffs. They faced the Indiana Pacers. In the first round, and the Pacers, they were loaded. Reggie Miller, Mark Jackson, Chris Mullin, Antonio Davis, Dale Davis, Rick Smits, Derek McKee, Jalen Rose, Larry Bird as head coach. They were loaded. And kicked out Cleveland in four games. Okay. And I remember after the Cavaliers won game 3. They won game 3 to extend the series, right? They won game 3, and they were interviewing Shawn Kemp after the victory. And I believe the reporter said these young guys on the Cleveland seem to be coming together, right? And so then Shawn Kemp said, yeah, they seem to be coming together. But I'll tell you what, man, I really miss his glove. Yeah. So he was acknowledging that he really missed Gary Payton. Okay. He really missed Gary Payton. He really missed Seattle. And so I guess it wasn't the same without playing if Gary Payton wasn't there. Kemp, stat-wise, had his best year, okay? He averaged 20.5 points per game, 9.2 rebounds per game, and made the All-Star team, right? Yeah, 20 and a half points per game, 9 rebounds per game, made the All-Star team, right? Yeah, so play with Jordan on the All-Star team. Gary Payton also went on to say, but as I look at it, that was the best year Shawn ever had. In Cleveland, being a big, in other words, being a big, I believe Shawn Kemp played out of position that year. I believe he played center, too, in addition to playing power forward. So I believe he played out of position some games, okay? But in Cleveland, being a big, he admitted to me that was the best season he ever had. But he got lost after that. Okay. Kemp was already a 6-time All-Star before age 30, okay? And then the lockout happened. So he went from being around 250, which was around his playing weight, 250, which was his playing weight, to, I believe he got up to, reports say he got up to 280 during the lockout. But when the players came back in early January, it was reported that he went to 280. But if you talk to Mike Fratello, who was a coach at the time of the Cavs, and Wayne Embry, who was the general, who was still in Cleveland at that time, they would tell you he was more like at 315. Yeah. And they asked Shawn Kemp why he gained so much weight, and Shawn Kemp was honest. He was really honest. He said, "Coach, I really thought we were not coming back." Okay, so yeah, so Gary Payton blamed himself for the way Shawn Kemp's career took a good turn after he was traded to Cleveland. Gary Payton blames himself for that. So I can see why Gary Payton will want to blame himself for that. Because, like I said, when Kemp was in Seattle, he had structure, discipline, and a routine. Then you go to a Cleveland team that's young, that is not as structured. Then you get lost. Then a lockout happened. And then he ended up falling into drugs, whatnot. So, but that was a pretty interesting read. That was a pretty interesting thing that Gary Payton said. That he blames himself for the way Shawn Kemp's career ended. What about you? What about you all? Do you think Gary Payton should blame himself for the way Shawn Kemp's career ended? Or do you think Shawn Kemp should just blame Shawn Kemp for the way his career ended? I'm probably sure y'all gonna have something to say about that in the comments, right? Anyway, so one more thing, okay? One more thing. So the weirdest triple double happened, okay? In the 1996 season, the Pistons were playing the Orlando Magic late in the 1996 season, okay? And Anthony Bowie had 20 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists, okay? And the Magic had a 20-point lead. And the Magic had a 20-point lead, so they were winning the game, okay? So, again, Bowie had 20 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists. The Pistons missed a free throw, right? And then Bowie grabbed his 10th rebound and then called timeout because He wanted to get a triple-double, okay? So Bowie grabbed his 10th rebound, 1 assist shy of a triple-double, and called a timeout himself, okay? Here is what had happened after Anthony Bowie called all timeout. Here it is.
The Orlando Magic led by 20 points with 2.7 seconds remaining when the Magic's Anthony Bowie called a timeout, seeking his first career triple-double. Incensed Piston coach Doug Collins pulled his team off the floor. Bowie passed to David Vaughn. He got his triple-double. When he tried to explain to Doug Collins, Collins pulled away. Brian Hill, after the game, went to the Pistons locker room. He tried to apologize. Doug Collins didn't want to come out. An update before tonight's playoff game. I spoke with Doug Collins, says Anthony Bowie's a great guy. Even tried to recruit him out of junior college. I talked to Anthony Bowie. He's still delighted with his triple-double. I asked him, go back to March 19th, would you do it again? He says, no, I wouldn't. Back to you, Bob.
Yeah. Doug Collins was pissed, to say the least. Doug Collins was pissed. And not only was Doug Collins pissed, Brian Hill, coach of the Magic, didn't like it. Okay, Brian Hill didn't appreciate what Sam Bowie. Brian Hill didn't appreciate what Anthony Bowie did. Right? Okay. Brian Hill didn't like it, and Brian Hill stepped out of the huddle. And he let Anthony Bowie run the timeout, okay? So when play resumed, Doug Collins told his team to stand on the side and let Bowie execute his plan. In other words, Doug Collins saying, you know what? Let this man get hit his triple-double, whatever. So Doug Collins told his team to stand on the sideline and let Bowie execute his plan. Bowie then passed the ball to David Vaughn, Memphis State, right here in Memphis, I might add. Rookie David Vaughn, who dunked and gave Bowie his triple-double. And the final score ended up being 113-91, Orlando. So you saw where Anthony Bowie tried to run and explain to Doug Collins. But Collins ignored him. The league actually ended up fining Doug Collins $5,000 for letting his team just stand to the other side and let Anthony Bowie get his triple-double, right? But Anthony Bowie says he doesn't regret it, okay? He says, regret? I don't understand why people say I should have regret having a triple-double, regardless of how it came. The triple-double is in the books, no matter how it happened. If those guys wanted to stop me, they could have stopped me. I don't hold any grudges or any bad thoughts towards anybody that I played with or felt it was wrong for me to do that. It wasn't to embarrass anybody or harm anybody. It's a game. So Anthony Bowie doesn't regret it. Okay. So but while Anthony Bowie doesn't regret it, Doug Collins probably to this day in 2025 is probably pissed about that. I bet he's probably pissed about that. Still pissed about that. So, all right, that's it, and that's all for Throwing It Back with Sean Farrell. I'm out of here, y'all. God bless. Peace out.